Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? But Mike, we appreciate the time. How are you?
Doing well. How are you? A lot has happened since the last time we talked.
Man.
By the day.
Yeah, right. As if the roster cuts weren't a big enough swing, then the news with obviously Marcus Maye being arrested and Chauncey Garner-Johnson being traded just 2 days prior. Where does that leave the Saints secondary, Mike?
Well, I mean, obviously if Marcus Maye is going to miss time, then it becomes more of a concern. But it's premature to go from this to knowing for sure that he's going to miss time. He's actually facing a potential suspension from a DUI incident from back when he was with the Jets that was expected to come up at some point this season. This could exacerbate that. I mean, but this is obviously so early, unless the details are really bad and the Saints immediately decide to do something, it could be a while before it plays out, like what we're seeing with the Alvin Kamara situation. So it's tough to say that today's news means Marcus Maye is not going to be playing in week one, but we know C.J. Garner-Johnson won't be. And first of all, I don't know all the details of why the Saints decided he had to go, but by no means do the Saints think they got a good deal. I mean, the draft picks they got, it doesn't mean that suddenly Mickey Loomis and Kai Harley have no idea what value is. I mean, that shows you that they had made the decision to let Gardner-Johnson go. I mean, I feel like the narrative would be different if they cut him. If they cut him, everybody would be like, what happened? What did he do wrong? But since they traded him for a 6th and 5th round pick, everybody's like, oh, the Saints got bad value. They should have traded. They clearly decided they wanted to move on. And it's disappointing they didn't get more for him. But that is a decision they made. And in part, they probably made that because they did feel good about the secondary depth, even without him. Nobody is better at defending the nickel on this current roster, but they do have a lot of guys who are good at it. First of all, there's some crossover with the things Tyrann Mathieu does, but then Bradley Roby is a really good third corner who could play in the nickel. P.J. Williams has played his best in the nickel. They drafted Alontae Taylor in the second round. He could potentially grow into that role. So they do have a lot of candidates and options. But they didn't get better by trading him. Obviously, they lost a good player there.
Did he have a reputation, Mike, talking about Chauncey Garner-Johnson, of being a bad locker room guy?
I don't think I would use that terminology because I think he was well liked. But obviously we've seen glimpses of his personality. We've seen him get punched by opponents. We've seen him get punched by teammate.
Right.
And I can only imagine that we've seen contract negotiations lead to rifts between team and player many times, and it really does appear that was probably part of the case here, where he was not handling he had a very different view of his value and what he found out the team's value was of him, and it seemed like that was maybe the last straw. Although I will say the fact that they added Tyrann Mathieu and the fact that they drafted Alontae Taylor kind of signals that maybe there was some forethought that they did not intend to sign him long term beyond this year, even way back then.
That's an interesting thought. He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. So the first 53 come and go, Mike. I've been asking everybody, what were your impressions and maybe any big surprise?
No big surprises. I mean, the one thing that really stands out is, we talked all offseason about how a lot of people nationally especially are counting out the Saints, and locally we're higher on the Saints than other people are. Well, lo and behold, here's another roster where only one undrafted rookie could make his way onto the squad, and that includes one of their draft picks being placed on IR, another draft pick being cut. It's still a really hard roster to make because they have depth in a lot of areas. Maybe not as top-heavy as they've been. I mean, we've seen some top 100 lists that didn't have as many Saints on them as they used to. But it's still a roster that that just has depth top to bottom. I mean, we know where the question marks are, including, how good they're going to be at quarterback and how good they're going to be at safety and how good they're going to be at left tackle. But pretty remarkable how hard it is still to make this roster.
Mike, where are the question marks, the biggest needs, as best you can tell?
Well, I don't think I would use the word needs at this point because I don't think there's anywhere where you can find someone off the street that's going to improve their team. Obviously, there are areas where they could upgrade if they went out and spent a lot of money, tight end being one of them. We still don't know for sure about the running back depth, even though Mark Ingram's looked really strong, so you got to feel pretty good about that. Defensive end would feel a lot better if we saw Marcus Davenport looking like, healthy and looking like he did last year when he was healthy. What else?
Linebacker?
Safety all of a sudden we said. Yeah, well, linebacker. I knew there was one more. I'm sitting here going through the left to right on that.
The one you didn't
Linebacker's in good shape if DeMario Davis and Pete Werner are healthy, but it becomes a big question mark if either one of those guys is not on the field.
The one you didn't mention, Mike, that I'm all of a sudden a little leery about is offensive tackle, because while Hurst is healthy,
oh yeah, of course,
you don't have a backup option, and there are options in free agency. So I'm curious your thoughts when you look at them. You're restructuring a deal for Nick Vannett to free up some cap space. It looks like they're aligning the board to go make a move. What is that move? Is it?
No, I wouldn't say that. The Nick Vannett deal was one of those. I think he was very much on the roster bubble, and they that was a pay cut. That was not a restructure. That was a pay cut to remain on the team.
Okay.
To match with the role. I think he made it just over J.P. Holtz, who's on the practice squad, and if he wasn't willing to take a pay cut, they probably would have gone the other direction there. But so I don't think that it's a financial move. They have the cap space. They carved out all the cap space way back when they were pursuing a certain quarterback that was a sliding doors moment for this franchise. But so they're not, surprisingly, they're not one of the teams that needs to carve out the cap space one by one right now, because they did it all at the beginning of the offseason. But no, you're absolutely right. And when Trevor Penny got hurt, I don't think Trevor Penny was going to win that starting job as early as week one. But he was an injury away from going in the lineup. He was going to spend a lot of time in the lineup as that sixth jumbo tight end, and he was going to get better and better. And it might have been a scenario where it was like, Teron Armstead took over week 13 of his rookie year. It could have been that kind of situation. That's definitely a loss, and you definitely lose your safety net. But if the starting five offensive linemen on this team can remain healthy, which is a gigantic obviously, it's a pretty good starting five.
It is, and only one of the five last year stayed healthy, and it was your worst guy.
Yeah.
So, do you think it's possible they go bring in one of these veteran free agent tackles that's available, or, I have another follow up. But do you think they'd bring in a veteran tackle?
I would not completely rule it out. They do like James Hurst though, and they do like their young talent. I mean, they kept Landon Young and Lewis Kidd, the only undrafted rookie who did make the team. They kept both of them on the active roster, and they put in a claim on the offensive tackle that just arrived today from the Bills. So now they have three young backup offensive tackles that they like. So they don't just need a body. And they like James Hurst enough that I don't think they want to relegate him to a backup job by going on. But it's an important enough job that it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Okay. I'd feel a lot better if you had some veteran depth there. What's going on with Ndamukong Suh?
I don't know for sure. He would make sense. That's a position where I think you could stand to upgrade him. And obviously they like Shai Tuttle, the nose tackle who's been around for several years now. I don't think Malcolm Roach will be sidelined for too long. Why am I drawing a blank on the other one who did make it? Because Huggins went on IR.
Well, I mean, you got Onyemata, of course, in the middle.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think of the bigger. I mean, Onyemata is going to be there. and I'm trying to, who would line up next to Onyemata. That would be Sue would be an upgrade. There's no doubt about it. But, if that was a position where they felt like they really wanted to upgrade, they've had ample time to do it, and they've never been shy about going out and trying to upgrade. So I have not seen a strong motivation for the team that feels like that's an area where they're missing a body. And obviously they kept 9 defensive linemen, and a lot of them are versatile. The big guy, and maybe the big guy, quote unquote, just won't play as often, becomes a part-time role when you have all these guys who are inside, outside guys, including Marcus Davenport and Cam Jordan to some extent, but obviously also Peyton Turner and Tano Passignon and Contavious Street, who they brought in, and Malcolm Roach when he's on the field. A lot of these guys who are going to spend a lot of time at defensive tackle, but are a little bit more inside outside. But no, Sue would they'd make room for a guy like that for sure.
Mike, are you before you go? And of course, the season kicks off a week from Sunday. Are you more optimistic than what the general national feeling is? Because I think you appropriately said it when we started here. This fan base is way more optimistic about this team than the outside voices are. Where are you right now?
Yeah. Well, I'm in between the two because obviously the fan base is slightly blinded by the Honey Badger and Jarvis Landry signings.
Okay.
But they were 2 excellent football fits no matter what college they went to, I think. 2 excellent signings for this team. Yeah, I am probably like everyone else locally if this team was 9-8 last year, then they have to be better than 9-8 this year because every single thing that could go wrong went wrong last year. I don't think, though, that I am not one of the people who's thinking 12 wins, NFC South champions. I think they're capable of that. I think the one area where I would be a little more cautious is I don't think their defense could possibly play as good again as they played last year, especially down the stretch. They were maybe the best defense in the league in the second half of last season when they, like the 9-0 shutout at Tampa Bay and other games like that. But obviously the offense is going to be way better. I've pretty consistently picked them to be a 10-17. I could see better. I think it'd be really disappointing if it was worse. If they don't make the playoffs, it's a huge disappointment because they've taken last year's team and only added to it for the most part. We didn't mention Sean Payton being replaced.
Right.
I don't know how many wins you attach to that, but the on-field product should be better than last year's. So it'll be a big disappointment if they take a step back.
He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. You can read his stuff at ESPN.com. He's with us every Thursday during football season. We appreciate it, Mike. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.